Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's main event featuring brother versus brother. In the red corner, from Indianapolis, Indiana, an ER doctor, a Christian, a Republican, Dr. David Blank. And in the blue corner, hailing from San Francisco, California, a computer scientist, an atheist, a Democrat, Dr. Doug Blank. Now it's time for the Blanks to rumble!
Welcome to another issue of Blank versus Blank. What do you want to talk about?
Today, let's talk about hanging out with your family at the holidays and how to get along.
Let's do that right now.
So how long have we been doing blank versus blank? Or when did we first start out doing that? Is that like 5 years ago?
Oh, at least. We'll have to go back and look at this. So for people that don't know, my name's Doug.
I'm David.
David. We're brothers. We are 23 months apart. We grew up together in Indiana. We were roommates in college, and we have pretty different ideas about the world.
A lot of things.
A whole lot of things.
Yeah.
So, I guess we started blogging about this maybe shortly after, it must have been in Obama's second term.
Maybe. Yeah, it must have been. And I think
we must have discussed Obama's election, didn't we?
Maybe. Could it possibly go back that far?
Yeah, it's been with 5 or 8 years.
Yeah. So, and I think it might have been your idea to kind of put it into kind of print. I don't really recall exactly how we kind of came up with the idea, but it was like, sure, let's do that. And so if anybody's ever read the blog, and you still can, and we'll put up a link where you can still find those. So what would you say was the original premise? Because I don't know if after the fact, if we actually really agreed with what we were doing.
Well, I think, and we were actually on WHYY on the radio back in Philadelphia. They spent an entire hour talking to us.
Yep.
And I think at that point, it was really, at least for me, it was, how did this happen? How did you and I grow up in the same exact initial starting conditions, as we say in computer science, and we end up in so different places, so different beliefs? Our lives in some ways couldn't be more different.
Yeah. Well, Mom dropped you a lot. I think that had something to do with it.
Well, unfortunately, she dropped me on you, so I don't know if that's a good defense or not.
Yeah, I think when we first were starting out, my own thinking was that we were gonna kind of be able to help people or kind of show the way that, and I often told people when we were talking about the blog, it's like, here's my brother. He's got 2 degrees. He's got a master's. He's got a PhD. You know, he's not stupid or misinformed. I've been to medical school. We both know how to read reports. We both know how to understand science. And yet, because we have different paradigms, we take all that information and process it into different solutions to problems or a different understanding. And that doesn't necessarily make either one of us bad, or maybe not even necessarily wrong, but it's just to kind of show people that you can come out with different interpretations, and uh, without being, I guess, stupid. So, I think the one thing I learned while we were doing that blog, and I see it a lot on Facebook and social media now, all the time. It's just human knowledge, or the human condition, that we all think of ourselves as being knowledgeable and reasonable. And even if you think, oh, I'm not the smartest person, but you still, I think most people think, yeah, I've got common sense. I can figure things out. I can look and see something and come up with a decision. And so when people have someone else that's looked at the same information, and that they've come away with 180-degree difference of opinion as to what that means, or what you need to do to fix that, I think that most people think, well, they're just not very smart, or they're stupid, or they're lying, or they're purposefully misleading people, because they didn't come up with the same conclusion that I did. And I'm looking at it honestly, but you got people on both sides who are both doing that. And so, especially on Facebook, you know, if if somebody disagrees with you in politics, or anything like that, uh, they will oftentimes say, oh, well, that person is obviously stupid. Republicans are stupid. Republicans say, well, Democrats are stupid. And it's like, no, they aren't.
Well, I don't know about all of that you just said. uh, I think maybe initially I did start thinking that people on both sides sort of reason their way to their beliefs, but I don't know. I don't think I even believe that anymore. I think generally people are lazy, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, why think about something hard if you don't have to? And a lot of these things are hard. So I I don't necessarily I don't think people are generally stupid. I don't think all of the bad decisions that I would say are bad decisions have been made because people are too stupid to realize that they're bad. But I do think that, especially in these really polarized times, that people people don't try to be consistent, uh, or they don't try to be as consistent as I wish that people were. It's sort of, I feel like if people really I don't know why I put consistency above almost anything else, but it's like, if you're going to have thoughts, then you should be consistent with those thoughts. Otherwise, your what you believe in, or your policies, or why you vote for one person or another, they don't come down to the facts. They don't come down to things that you can actually argue about and discuss whether this is better than that and this one is better than that. It just comes down to, are you on my team or are you on the other team? And
Yep. No, and I think that there's certainly a lot of tribalism, although I kind of take away from what you just said, that if people just spent more time researching it, then they would come up with conclusions that would better match yours.
no, no, no. No, not at all. I think if you are in a place where you have to do more research in order to to come up, you don't need to know all of the details. You don't need to know all of the information. You just need to know the gist. What are the important parts of it? And sometimes uh, you have to ask, well, why is someone actually advocating that? What's the motivation? Because there are oftentimes are, this is a really complicated world that we live in. And there's just so many interconnections that, unintended consequences. If you think you want to do one thing, but then by doing that, it actually causes this other thing to happen. So it's really hard to be consistent and happy. Um, and I don't think that, knowing more information or doing further research is what the thing that leads you to one answer to another. It's really a set of priorities, and you just have to like make those priorities known to yourself. You have to know what your own priorities are. And then on top of that, if you can be consistent in those priorities, then I think then you could be a happy person, and people could be happy around you because they sort of know what to expect uh, from you.
Yeah. And that, so I think that at the end there, because we actually haven't done the blog uh, for a couple of years.
Oh, it's been 3 years. I couldn't really. I couldn't even think about politics with Trump being president. It was just, every day it was just an assault. There was no way I could have done something like this.
Yeah. But I think part of it too is uh, too much of the time, rather than just laying out our cases, we turned into kind of arguing brothers, and it sometimes was a little more over the top than I think we intended it. Uh, and so people might, well, before we go on to the vlog and how we've kind of moved on to that or evolved a little bit. Uh, so I often think back to that NPR radio interview that we did. And so that was right before the 2016 election. So it was right before, I think, yeah, it was before Thanksgiving. It was kind of getting into the holiday season. And the host had us on as the two brothers that are able to blog together, and how to get along. This is how they've made it work. They can discuss things, and do a blog together. And it just kind of stunned me that all of the callers into that show kind of seemed like they were of the same mind. They're like, well, we're getting together for the holidays. Uh, what are we supposed to do? And our answer was like, don't talk about politics, do something else. Talk
Yeah.
about your families, talk about all the other things that are going on. And it just seemed like anybody should be able to figure that out.
Well, um, I mean, that was 4 years ago, like you say, right before the 2016 election. And I, I don't think people knew how hard it was going to be. And not necessarily because of anything that the family was doing, but just that um, and I don't want to blame Trump for everything that happened over the last 4 years.
But I will.
No, I don't, because he was only one person. And I think if we put all the blame on him, that we think that everything is going to be better starting on January 20th. And I don't think that that is going to happen. But what I was going to say is why it's even harder now for families to have a civil conversation over the holidays is that so many things have been polarized. I mean, the idea that wearing a mask can be seen as, by some, I don't know about you, but could be seen by some as being a political statement. That's just crazy. The idea that you could, push politics into the very fabric of, health and safety in a pandemic is just crazy to me.
Well, uh, and that, like I say, I don't know that the issue for a lot of people was so much that it's the mask as much as it's the government forcing you to wear a mask. And I think if it had been handled a little lighter without the mandates, I think there'd been a lot more people that might have joined on to that. But with the pandemic going on, we're certainly in a different world coming into the holidays than we were 4 years ago. So we're still kind of debating whether we're going to try to have some family over, like our normal tradition where we have the whole blank clan at our house for Christmas, and whether that's something that we can do and in a safe way, or is that something we're not going to be able to do in a safe way? And of course, some people in our family have already had COVID and are now beyond it. And so uh, that might make them a little bit more comfortable to be part of that. But a lot of families are dealing with that. They can still Zoom, and that's what our family, uh, along with Doug's family, did for Thanksgiving. Was we all got together and just did a big family Zoom call, which I encourage. I think it's
Yeah,
good
I
to
mean,
see family.
how many people are dying every day? Something like 2,000? Is it that high? I haven't looked at the numbers this week,
It
but
could be. It could be.
it's just a crazy amount of people, and this is the worst that it's been. Uh, I have to say that if I lived next door to you right now and you had a Christmas party, I'd Zoom with you and say Merry Christmas.
Yep.
There's no way I'm coming over to your house. Uh, that I just know that that's just it would be so sad to have gone through everything. I still haven't gotten my hair cut yet. I'm waiting until I feel like, there's really it's safe and secure and worth, the risk and everything that we do. So am I going to go inside with a bunch of people? No way. uh unless I live with them. And even then, if one of we, my wife and I, we have two kids. They're college age kids. They're not in. They're at home. They're studying here. So that there's a reason why that's going on. And to have a party, to have people over inside would just completely um, it would just it would break all of that hard work. And who would want to do that?
I think still, though, getting together with family, especially at a time like Christmas, has benefits. Uh,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I want to be with my family. I want to go into stores. I want to go into a bar and sit at a bar
but
and
not just to do stuff, but I mean, the number of people I've seen that are isolated and depressed and suicidal, and the drug use that I'm seeing in the ER right now is more than I've ever seen in the last 25 years. I mean, every single shift that I'm working, it's amusing. I actually posted on Facebook back in March that everybody was afraid to come to the ER for a bit. And our volume was like 30% of our normal volume. And they were just sick people. But we didn't have anybody, all the heroin people and drunks and the suicidal people were gone for like 2-3 weeks. We didn't have any of them. That is not the case anymore. And now every single shift. So coupled with that, we don't have any nighttime therapist or psychiatrist or psychologist right now. We did before. So if all these people who come in at like 10 o'clock at night just are staying until 8 in the morning when somebody comes in, and it's gotten to the point now where every single night shift we have a dozen people in the department who kind of fall into that behavioral health category where we're just holding them till morning, and that's just on that shift. They're It's all day long. So there
Well,
are a lot
I
of
have nothing but empathy for people that
right.
are feeling despondent and lonely, uh, if uh, if they're at home or by themselves, or even when you're at home with other people, it
Yeah,
can still be pretty lonely and
yeah.
depressing.
But we're
Um,
kind of getting off our original topic, and I know I'm not saying that you're not caring about those people as well. There are those kind of issues, but getting back to the blog, going on to the vlog. Uh, so we kind of got back together again. Of course, Doug and I always have, we've continued to talk. And I think you can kind of get a better gist from watching the videos as opposed to reading the blog. That the blog sometimes came across like, "Ooh, you guys are really mean. That really was kind of hateful." And it's like, yeah, but you kind of miss some of the sarcasm, and you miss some of the stuff that were, you know, when you would write something, I would hear you saying it in your Doug way in my head, and I'd be like, oh, and then I'd type something back. But people who don't know us in that sense, I think sometimes took it a lot harder.
well, I don't think there was anything ever hateful in that. I mean, to say something that's hateful, you sort of have to say it in a way that is maybe harmful, or we never, at least I never considered you or Republicans as the enemy. I never felt like we did any dehumanizing things like that. Um, but there were, I think it was definitely raw and honest, and I think probably still, I mean, I haven't changed uh, since then. Well, no, actually, I have.
I was gonna say, I think we all change. Yeah.
Yeah, and by blogging, I did learn some things about myself, and um, just sitting down to talk on a topic. Well, that is one thing that I'm doing differently than I was doing with the blog. I felt like when we were going to blog on a particular topic, I sort of needed to represent uh, one side, at least one side of the argument. And so I felt like there was pressure on me to know the nuances and to know the ins and outs, and be aware of, this might seem intuitive, but it's actually, you want to do this. So I would do some research to know what uh, the the issues were. But I feel like now, and maybe it's because I'm older, maybe it's because I don't feel like I have to represent all those people. I can represent myself, and that's enough.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think so when we got together with the vlog, uh, the blog, we would just put out a topic. One or the other of us would start it, and it would just go from there. And it was a back and forth, back and forth. Whereas with the vlog, just the mechanics of it, we have to set things up a little bit better and kind of plan things. But we purposely have kind of looked at our Venn diagrams and kind of finding that middle ground, at least loosely, which I think helps. And it's like, yeah, let's do better at getting along, or let's do a better job of not just ending the blog with both of us in our corners, but let's do a little better job of finding uh, some commonality that I think other people can look and say, yeah, I think that made sense. I think they both made sense. And that's, I think, as far as why we would waste our time doing this, it's like, no, I think that's something that's lacking in a lot of discussion, is where two people can sit down and actually say, yeah, I can buy into that as well.
Well, I think this is probably a lot harder for you in your context than it is for me in my context. Uh, and maybe a lot of your friends and Republicans feel the same way that you do. I don't get that feeling on Facebook, for example, uh, that they're willing to sit down and uh, see that there is something not wrong with the other side, that they're not the enemy, that they are just one brother and another brother. um,
Yep.
so I feel like on my context, I don't have to convince too many people that Joe Biden is pretty middle of the road. I don't really see him doing a lot of things that I would really like to see him do. All those things that the right was up in arms about, that Joe Biden is going to turn us into socialists. Oh, if I only wish. We probably could come to a lot of agreement on, criticizing the middle of the road.
Yeah, we will see. A lot of people were kind of saying that about Joe Biden because Joe Biden said all those things in the primaries. Uh, but we will see. Like we talked about in another vlog, he so far, of course, he's not even been inaugurated yet, but so far he's kind of been a pretty tame, soft-spoken, mannerisms, and he's really presented things in a middle of the road way. Uh, I know he's going to get a lot of pushback, and he already is getting a lot of pushback here in December. He's just started putting together his cabinet, and he's already getting a lot of push from the far left that he's not near far left enough. But I
Oh,
don't think
I
that's
haven't
it.
seen anybody. Uh, yeah, maybe you read more far left news than I do, but pretty much everybody knew this was the deal we made. We wanted to get rid of Trump, and in order to do that, we were satisfied with a middle of the road candidate, and that was sort of a trade-off. And I think most
Yeah,
Democrats.
but he's got Kamala Harris, the most liberal senator in the Senate, as
I
the
wish that were true. I wish that she was the most liberal. I mean, you're going to compare her to Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, and you're going to say Kamala Harris, the old prosecutor, is more liberal than them? Come on.
based on her voting record.
Yeah,
But then you've got Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, who, you know,
I think we may have lost you.
Well, it looks like we did lose my brother, so I'll go try to find him, and we look forward to the next episode of Blank versus Blank.